check out the Logitech HD Pro Webcam C920, affiliate link below in the video description. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and it turns out that James Bond number 25 is confirmed. It's a go. It's happening. And apparently Daniel Craig is back. Now, the title of this article says Daniel Craig is definitely back, but it's a clickbait headline. It's not 100% true, as evidenced by the meat in the article, but we're going to get into that here in a second. So it says here that the question of whether or not Daniel Craig would make another James Bond movie has been up for debate since the last one finished filming. Now it appears that the question has finally been answered. EoN Productions, or Everything or Nothing Productions, the company in charge of all things James Bond, has announced that the 25th James Bond feature will be released on November 8th, 2019, and while the production company did not officially announce who would be playing the lead, the word is that Daniel Craig will be back one more time. That is the word. That is not a definitely. That's not the same thing. I really hate a lot of these clickbait articles. It's a good article with information, but there's that little bit in there that's just like, come on, Cinema Blend, you're better than this. Now, it says here that when Daniel Craig finished Spectre, the last film in the franchise, he famously said he'd rather slit his wrists than play the part again. Though time changes perspective for all, and even Craig knew at the time, meaning that the possibility of his return was always there, at least until somebody else was cast in his place. Now, according to the New York Times, Craig's return to one of the most famous movie roles has now been confirmed. But if they haven't confirmed it officially, anything is up in the air. The likelihood of him coming back is probably, I would say, like, yeah, high. He's going to come back once more. Although he doesn't necessarily need to. If you go back and you watch Spectre, whatever you think of the film itself, it was a bit of a mess towards the end, especially with the whole Blofeld thing. But if you go back and you look at it, you can see that they go back to Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and they bring all of that home, and they wrap all of those movies up. And then at the end, they give him a proper send-off. And so him coming back as Bond one more time is either to make up for the mistakes of Spectre, or because they just are super afraid of casting anybody else in the role and they don't know what to do. Now, while it goes on to say here, while the official reveal of 2019 or November 2019 release date said that cast and director announcements would follow, it makes sense that at least some of these decisions have already been made, thus giving studio confidence to set the release date in the first place. Screenwriters Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, who have written the last several James Bond films, are on board to write Bond 25 for some time, but you don't set a release date even 2 years in advance if you don't have a clue who your star is going to be, or at least you really shouldn't. It's not just, though, who the star is. It's also who's going to distribute the film. It's not Sony anymore. It may not be Sony. Sony was handling Casino Royale, Quantum, Skyfall, and Spectre, but they have since lost that right. Those rights have now gone back to EoN, and EoN is probably looking for a new distributor, which means a new company to run it through. If I had to take a wild stab in the dark, I would guess it would either be Paramount, who is clamoring for a franchise that will work for them right now, or it's possible that it could go to something like Disney. Disney is always looking for new franchises, but even then, they've got a lot on their plate. Maybe Universal, or Warner Brothers. It could easily jump around, but it's probably not going to be Sony, and that's just kind of where things are. Daniel Craig signing back on isn't a huge surprise right now, as of the most recent rumors have indicated that it's likely to happen. Barbara Broccoli, the keeper of all things James Bond at EoN Productions, was said to really want Craig back, in part because she didn't like any of the potential replacements. Most of the recent word indicating that Craig might come back also indicated that if he did, part of the deal was that the next movie would be his last. And maybe they want to reboot it or something. Maybe they want to, like, kind of, again, like I said, kind of fix what happened with Spectre and then go back to the world of Bond. Because Spectre did end kind of like, it felt like it ended the franchise. It did. It felt like it ended the franchise as a whole. Bond drove off into the sunset with the girl. He stopped Blofeld, he stopped, Spectre, he saved the world for kind of like the last time. And I understand that they probably want to reboot it, but I don't know. I don't think Daniel Craig coming back is the right course of action here. I don't think Daniel Craig coming back at all is going to help propel the franchise. I think they're doing it as a way to bridge it to a new studio and test the waters at a new studio. The budget, too. The budget has to be severely reined in. Spectre's budget was like $300 million or something like that. I mean, if you watch that opening shot, oh my God, you see why. But it was one of those things where it was like, you're spending too much money here. They have to find a way to rein it back in. And I honestly would rather see something as personal and intimate as Casino Royale for his last film versus something as kind of overbloated as Spectre. As much as I enjoyed it, I really liked Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. Both of those felt like more intimate, smaller films, whereas Skyfall was much larger in scale, kind of going back to, like, let's say the Roger Moore era of the franchise. Finishes up here by saying, whether or not the next James Bond movie turns out to be Daniel Craig's last, it's far from surprising that the studio has been working so hard to get him back. Craig has been the face of a major reset of the James Bond franchise, and while the quality of the movies themselves haven't always been great, the general feeling about the more grounded and realistic James Bond has been a positive one. Once the actor in the lead role changes, all bets are off, as the franchise will surely go through some additional changes. Clearly, EoN Productions is looking to put off those changes as long as possible. Like I said, they're switching up distributors, and that is unless Sony comes in and actually works with them again. But given how Sony wrote down $1 billion last year, I don't think that's going to happen. So they're going to have to find a new distributor in order to make it work, which means then they're going to have to find financing, and that financing is going to look at the box office return, both domestic and worldwide, of Spectre and how it didn't do as well as Skyfall. They're going to have to look at what they put in the film. They're going to, they're going to have to do a whole bunch of stuff with it in order to ground this film into what it needs to be in order to be successful and to kind of reboot the franchise once again, even with it being Daniel Craig's last film. So I am cautiously optimistic. I mean, cautiously optimistic to the point of where I will be there November 8th, 2019, probably the 7th for the early night screening. I'm going to be there with my popcorn, with my drink, probably with my daughter, and be like, all right, babe, let's watch some James Bond. She'll be like, goo goo gaga, I don't know what's happening, but she's going to enjoy it anyway. But I have a feeling it's going to be a good time, and I really want to give a proper send-off to the character, even though I feel like he already got it. I'm still down to watch more Daniel Craig as James Bond because he's fucking awesome as James Bond. But what do you guys think about this? Do you think they should bring in a new actor for the 25th film? Do you think it's like, kind of like the 13th Doctor, regenerate that shit? Not as a woman or as Idris Elba, but just like a new actor. And if you want a new actor as James Bond, who do you think could play the role? These are things I want to know. Go ahead and let me know in the comments. My name, of course, is Matt Jarbo. This is $3 Theater. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day, and peace out.